She was waiting to mock her poor husband on divorce day, but when he arrived in a gleaming black Rolls-Royce, the laughter froze on her lips, and the world around her stopped breathing. Savannah Miles had spent weeks rehearsing her victory, how she'd humiliate the man she once called husband, how she'd prove that leaving a poor husband was the smartest move of her life. But the moment the Rolls-Royce door opened and Ethan Miles stepped out calm, confident, and richer than every man she'd ever chased, her heart sank beneath her pride. The cameras flashed, her friends gasped, and the broke man she thought she destroyed looked at her with the silence of someone who'd already won. He wasn't there to beg. He wasn't there to cry. He was there to end a story she didn't know he'd rewritten. But who exactly was the man behind that Rolls-Royce? What secret did her poor husband hide while she plotted to ruin him? And what would he do next that would shock not only his wife, but the entire world watching? The morning light slipped through silk curtains, painting Savannah Miles's penthouse in warm gold. It was divorce day, the day she'd finally sever ties with Ethan, the poor man she'd long grown ashamed of. Her reflection smiled back from the mirror, sculpted brows, champagne lipstick, a diamond choker that once belonged to him. She wasn't nervous, she was hungry for the attention she'd been denied. Her best friend Marissa, perched on the couch, scrolling through gossip headlines. When he walks in with that tired gray suit, she said, make sure you don't even look up. Let him feel invisible. Savannah smirked. He already is. What neither woman knew was that Ethan wasn't invisible, he was watching. From the parking lot below, Ethan sat quietly in a tinted SUV, his phone glowing with live footage from a micro camera hidden in the courtroom. Noah Bennett, his private investigator, leaned over. They think you're still driving that old Toyota. Should I bring the rolls to the front entrance? Ethan exhaled slowly. Not yet. Let her have her moment. He looked down at the wedding ring still on his finger. 7 years of sacrifice, love, and betrayal condensed into a single band. He remembered her laughter when he sold his first company to cover her father's debts. How she'd whispered, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," right before sleeping with the man who ruined him, Logan Pierce. Inside her vanity drawer, Savannah's phone buzzed. "Logan, court's at noon. Don't worry, our lawyer's ready. Once the divorce finalizes, I'll announce the engagement." Savannah grinned. She had no idea Ethan already owned controlling shares in Logan's company. Meanwhile, Grace Caldwell, Ethan's attorney, reviewed documents in a quiet chamber. She'd represented hundreds of clients, but this one was personal. Ethan wasn't just fighting for justice, he was unearthing a bloodline of betrayal that stretched back to his father's humiliation decades ago. "Grace," Ethan said softly, entering the room. "She thinks today ends everything. But for me, it's just chapter 1. Grace studied his expression. "You're sure you're ready for this?" He nodded. "My kindness made me her target. My silence will make me her story." At exactly noon, Savannah descended the courthouse steps in a designer emerald dress, paparazzi flashing. "Where's your husband?" a reporter called. Savannah smirked, probably taking the bus. Then the air shifted. A deep purr of an engine rolled through the plaza. Heads turned. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom slid into view, sunlight bouncing off its chrome grille. The door opened. Ethan stepped out impeccably dressed, posture calm, eyes unreadable. The crowd fell silent. Savannah's smile shattered like glass. The man she planned to humiliate had arrived as royalty. Ethan's gaze met hers. No anger, no words, just calm devastation, wrapped in quiet power. And as cameras flashed, Savannah felt something she hadn't felt in years, fear. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, phones flashing as Ethan walked in behind his lawyer. The soft hum of murmurs died the moment he entered, the kind of silence that bends under tension. Savannah lifted her chin high, forcing a smirk she didn't feel. She had planned every second of this day, her posture, her smile, her victory. But she hadn't planned for that car, or the quiet confidence now radiating from the man she once called weak. Grace Caldwell, sharp in a navy suit, handed a stack of files to the clerk. "Miles versus Miles. Divorce and Asset Division," the bailiff announced. Ethan took his seat without glancing at Savannah. His calmness was surgical. It disarmed everyone watching, especially her. Savannah leaned toward her attorney. "He must have borrowed that car," she whispered, "probably trying to make me look stupid." Her lawyer didn't respond. He just received a text from Logan Pierce. If things go south, delay. I'm not in the clear yet. He swallowed hard. Something about this case felt off. The judge entered. Court is now in session. Grace stood. Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to submit an amendment to the financial disclosures. My client has discovered new information about marital assets transferred without consent. Savannah's lawyer frowned. Objection, Your Honor. This is a diversion. The judge cut him off. Overruled. Proceed, Miss Caldwell. Grace opened the folder and began reading. According to bank records, Mrs. Savannah Miles transferred $2.4 million from joint accounts into shell companies managed by Mr. Logan Pierce, her husband's former business partner. Gasps. Cameras. Savannah's heart slammed against her ribs. That's a lie, she shouted. He's just bitter because I left him. Grace's tone remained icy calm. These documents include text messages, hotel logs, and recorded wire transfers. The evidence was gathered over the past 4 months by a licensed private investigator, and she held up a separate envelope. DNA test results confirming that neither of the 2 children listed under this marriage are biologically Mr. Miles's. The courtroom froze. The air itself felt heavy. Savannah's eyes darted toward Ethan, who hadn't moved, hadn't flinched. His expression remained unreadable, like a man watching the inevitable. Her lawyer whispered, Savannah, did you know about this? She couldn't answer. She couldn't even breathe. Ethan finally spoke, voice low but resonant. For years, she made me believe I wasn't enough, that kindness was weakness. I almost believed her, until I realized she only respected cruelty the same kind she grew up with. Grace placed another document on the judge's desk. Your Honor, there's one more detail. The company Mr. Logan Pierce currently owns Pierce Holdings is, as of last month, under the controlling ownership of a silent investor entity, Miles Enterprise Group. My client. Savannah's knees buckled. What? Logan's lawyer rushed to whisper in his ear. The entire courtroom erupted in disbelief. Ethan's voice cut through it all, steady, surgical, final. You thought today was about freedom. It's about accountability. Savannah lunged to speak, but her lawyer held her arm. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. The world outside that courtroom would soon know the truth she'd buried under lies. The judge's gavel hit once sharp, echoing. Order! But there was no order. Only chaos. Only Savannah's mind unraveling as the foundation beneath her collapsed because she was just realizing. This wasn't revenge born overnight. This was a storm Ethan had been building for years, brick by quiet brick, while she laughed at his silence. And now the silence was speaking. The courthouse steps were chaos. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Savannah's name tore through the air like a scandal gone viral. She clung to her purse like it was oxygen, makeup cracking under the heat of humiliation. Just hours ago, she was the wife who thought she'd won. Now, she was the woman the whole city was whispering about. Marissa pushed through the crowd to reach her. Sav, what happened in there? The internet's already calling you the billionaire's betrayed wife. Savannah's lip trembled. He planned this. He knew. He trapped me. Trapped you? Marissa hissed. You humiliated him for years. Everyone saw it. He just flipped the mirror. Across the street, Ethan stood beside the Rolls Royce, hands folded, watching the media storm devour her. Grace stood beside him, calm as ever. Do you want me to make a statement? She asked. Ethan shook his head. Not yet. The world will write it for me. Savannah's lawyer approached, drenched in sweat. Savannah, it's over. The DNA proof, the transfers, there's nothing left to fight. Her voice cracked. He won't take everything. The lawyer exhaled, defeated. He already has. Legally, emotionally, publicly. Savannah looked around, reporters everywhere, microphones pushing close. Mrs. Miles, is it true your children aren't your husband's? Did you cheat with his partner? Did you plan to marry Logan Pierce? Get away from me, she screamed, pushing through them. Her heels slipped on the marble step, and for a heartbeat, she almost fell, but Marissa caught her arm. Meanwhile, Logan Pierce sat inside his Mercedes a few blocks away, eyes glued to his phone. Every headline screamed corporate fraud scandal, DNA bombshell, Pierce Holdings under investigation. He slammed his fist against the wheel. How the hell did he do this? His father's voice, on the other end of the call, was low and sharp. I told you not to underestimate him. That man's father lost everything because of me, and sons always repay their father's debts. Logan froze. You mean? Yes. Ethan Miles's father. The man I ruined 25 years ago. You just gave his son the perfect stage to finish what I started. Outside, Ethan looked up at the courthouse's reflective glass facade, catching Savannah's tear-streaked reflection in it. The same reflection that once smiled down at him when she believed she was the prize. He said quietly to Grace, "This is level 1. Grace frowned. Level 1? He turned to her. 15 levels of consequence, each one deeper than the last. Grace hesitated. You're not going to destroy her completely, are you? Ethan's eyes softened, but only for a second. She destroyed herself. I'm just handing her the mirror. In that same moment, Savannah's phone buzzed. Logan. Don't call me. I'm under investigation. Her hand shook. No, you can't leave me now. You promised. But Logan was already gone. Across the plaza, Ethan opened the Rolls-Royce door and turned back one last time. Their eyes met across the chaos. No words, just a calm, cold stare that told her the storm wasn't over. It was just starting to rain. Savannah's voice cracked through the air, desperate. Ethan, please, don't do this to me. He didn't answer. He simply got into the car and closed the door, sealing her outside his world forever. As the car pulled away, the media swarmed her again. Each flash felt like lightning, each question like a knife. Inside the Rolls-Royce, Grace whispered, You really don't feel anything? Ethan looked out the window at the collapsing woman he once loved. I feel everything. That's why this has to be slow. The next morning, Lagos awoke to chaos, and Savannah's name was everywhere. News anchors spoke, her downfall like poetry. From penthouse to prison gates, the Savannah Miles betrayal scandal unfolds. Every blog, every talk show, every business journal tore open the story. Ethan hadn't said a word, yet the world already crowned him the man who turned betrayal into brilliance. In the glass towers of Pierce Holdings, panic ruled. Logan paced his office like a man standing in his own grave. His assistant whispered, Sir, the board wants an emergency meeting. Investors are pulling out something about the ownership documents being verified under Miles Enterprise Group. Logan's face drained of color. Get Ethan Miles on the phone now. But Ethan didn't answer calls anymore. He was already in another tower, calm, composed, standing beside Grace as she finalized documents that would legally transfer control of all Pierce Holdings subsidiaries to Miles Enterprise. Every word, every line was law. This was level 2 of his revenge corporate justice. Grace adjusted her glasses. Once this press release goes live, Logan will be suspended pending financial misconduct investigations. His father's shares will be frozen until the audit clears. Ethan nodded slowly. And Savannah? She's tied to his accounts. Once they freeze, she'll be broke by nightfall. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He only said, Good. Outside the tower, reporters waited, desperate for a statement. Grace gave them one. Mr. Ethan Miles has no comment at this time. The truth is public record. Meanwhile, Savannah sat in her penthouse surrounded by silence. The credit card stopped working. The driver didn't show. The maid quit. Even the phone company suspended her number. Her reflection looked alien, her mascara smudged, her eyes hollow. She whispered to herself, It's just temporary. Logan will fix this. He always fixes things. Then, the elevator dinged. She ran, expecting Logan. Instead, 2 federal agents stepped in, flashing badges. Mrs. Savannah Miles? One asked. We have a warrant to seize electronic devices and financial records related to Pierce Holdings. Her world spun. Warrant? For what? Money laundering and insider trading. She froze, her pulse pounding. That's not me. That's Logan. The agent cut her off. You're listed as co-director on multiple accounts. Her hand trembled as they collected her laptop, her jewelry, even her passport. When the door shut behind them, she collapsed on the marble floor. Marissa entered minutes later, holding her phone. Sav, your photos are everywhere. They're calling you the Diamond Mistress. Savannah's voice broke. He's destroying me, Marissa. He's taking everything. Marissa crouched beside her. No, Savannah. You destroyed yourself the moment you traded loyalty for luxury. Back across town, Ethan stood on the balcony of his new skyscraper, the one built with the profits Savannah thought she'd stolen. Lagos glittered beneath him. unaware of the storm he'd unleashed. Grace joined him, holding a cup of coffee. "Do you ever wonder," she asked quietly, "if revenge fills the same space love once did?" Ethan's jaw tightened. No. Love was silent. Revenge speaks. As he watched the news on the building screen, Savannah's crying face beside headlines screaming, "Pierce Holdings falls," he whispered to himself. "Level 2 completed." Then he turned to Grace. "Prepare the trust documents. I want her father's old hospital renamed after mine. She'll watch every piece of her past carry my name." Grace blinked. "That's level 3? Ethan nodded, his voice calm but chilling. "Yes, we're only getting started." Below, Savannah's phone buzzed again, an unknown number. She answered, voice shaking. "Who is this?" A familiar voice replied, "The same man you laughed at." She froze. "Ethan, please, can we talk?" "Talk?" His tone was steady, unhurried. "Savannah? I tried talking for years. You only listened when it was too late." The line went dead. By sunset, Savannah Miles's name had become poison in every high society circle she once ruled. The women who used to cling to her at brunch deleted her number before dessert. The same doormen who once bowed now turned their faces away. It wasn't just gossip anymore, it was exile. She sat alone in the penthouse she could no longer afford, the power already cut off, candles flickering against marble walls that suddenly looked foreign. The air reeked of perfume and panic. Every notification on her phone was another dagger. Pierce Holdings collapses, Savannah Miles, under financial investigation, luxury cars repossessed. Down in the lobby, Marissa argued with security. "You can't just lock her out. Orders from the bank," the guard said. "The property's under repossession. She has until morning." When Marissa finally reached the apartment, she found Savannah on the floor surrounded by half-packed boxes. "Sav," she said softly, "you have to leave." Ethan's lawyers froze the trust accounts. "You're not safe here." Savannah looked up. Mascara streaked. "He wouldn't take everything." "Marissa? I was his wife." Marissa hesitated. "Then why does he own your father's company now?" "He renamed it today. Miles Foundation for Cardiac Recovery. He donated $5 million to rebuild the hospital that saved your life." Savannah blinked. "That hospital was my father's dream." Marissa nodded. "Now it's Ethan's legacy. He's replacing every piece of your past with his name." Across town, Ethan stood at a private dinner with major donors and CEOs. The evening's toast was about philanthropy, but every sentence was another quiet strike of revenge. Grace Caldwell whispered beside him, "You know this event will make Savannah's name unmentionable in business circles for a decade." Ethan replied, "That's the point. Reputation lasts longer than money." A waiter refilled his glass. His reflection in the wine surface flickered, tired, human, haunted. For a fleeting second, he saw his father's face there, the man who'd lost everything when Harold Pierce framed him for embezzlement decades ago. Back then, Ethan was a boy watching police drag his father away, while Harold smirked beside a young Logan. That memory had built the quiet fire behind his calm. Now, the son was finishing what the father started. Meanwhile, Savannah scrolled through her messages, old friends, family, even her children's school group chats. Every chat had gone silent. Even her mother, who once called daily, sent only one text. "You married for wealth. You divorced for greed. And now you have neither. Don't call." Savannah hurled the phone across the room and screamed, "He's turning everyone against me." Marissa's voice was gentle but firm. "No, Sav. He's just showing them who you really are." The next morning, tabloids caught Savannah leaving the penthouse with 2 suitcases. Cameras clicked as she stumbled into a taxi. The photos went viral within minutes. Once elite socialite evicted after husband's corporate coup. Ethan didn't have to release a statement. The world was telling his story for him. Inside his new office, Grace approached. "You've completed level 4 public exile. What's next?" Ethan looked through the glass wall at the city skyline. "Level 5. Emotional dismantling." Grace frowned. "Meaning?" He turned, eyes steady. "She still believes love can save her. I'll give her just enough hope to break her again." Later that night, Savannah's phone buzzed, an unknown number again. A text. "Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. The old cafe by the pier. Come alone." She clutched the phone to her chest, whispering, "He still cares. He has to." But Outside her darkened window, across the street, Noah Bennett, the private investigator, watched her silhouette through binoculars, reporting quietly into his earpiece. She took the bait, level 5 in motion. The next morning, the sky over Lagos hung heavy with gray clouds that looked like they carried judgment. Savannah sat at a small cafe by the pier, fingers trembling around a chipped coffee cup. The sea wind whipped through her once perfect hair. Now it only tangled what was left of her pride. She kept checking her reflection in her phone screen, wiping at the smudged lipstick as if that could erase the shame already stamped across her name. When the door opened, the cafe's noise dimmed for her alone. Ethan walked in tailored charcoal suit, calm, as if the world still bent to him. He wasn't the man she left. He was the man she never understood. Savannah's breath caught. Ethan. He stopped at her table, gaze unreadable. You look, well. Her eyes flooded instantly. Don't do that. Don't act like I'm nothing to you. He sat across from her, leaning slightly forward, tone soft but surgical. You made sure of that, didn't you? Every lie, every dinner where you rolled your eyes when I spoke about rebuilding. Every night you said you were working late but came home smelling of someone else's cologne. She flinched. I made mistakes, Ethan. You were distant, too quiet, too kind. I needed more. More, he repeated, almost whispering. You mean richer, louder, crueler. The kind of man who could buy your loyalty for a season. Her eyes burned. Please, I'm begging you. I've lost everything. I didn't know you were suffering like that. He tilted his head. You didn't care to know. The waitress brought 2 coffees. Savannah reached for her cup, hands shaking. Ethan didn't touch his. He only studied her, the way one might study the remains of something once beautiful. I can't eat, she murmured. I can't sleep. People spit my name, my children. He cut her off gently. They're not your children, Savannah. They're Logan's. And don't pretend you didn't know. You signed birth certificates you never meant. She broke, then tears spilling freely, her voice collapsing. I thought you'd hate me forever. I thought you'd destroy me. He smiled faintly. You thought right. She blinked, frozen. But before destruction, Ethan said softly, comes reflection. He slid a small envelope across the table. That's for you. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside were photos her father's old hospital, the one Ethan had rebuilt and renamed. The sign outside read Miles Foundation for Cardiac Recovery. Underneath it, her father's name was engraved smaller, almost invisible. Her voice broke into a whisper. You took his dream. He nodded. You sold my soul to your lover. I bought your legacy in return. Balance. Savannah pushed the envelope away. Why are you even here, Ethan? To watch me beg? No, he said quietly. To watch you understand. The silence between them stretched, thick as fog. Outside, waves crashed against the pier, soft reminders that even water wears down stone over time. Savannah's voice shrank to a whisper. If you wanted me to feel pain, you've done it. What more do you want? Ethan stood. Patience. You're still breathing. He turned to leave. She reached out, grabbing his wrist. Please, Ethan. If there's anything left in you that remembers love, don't do this. Don't let hate be what's left of us. He looked down at her hand. Love isn't what's left, Savannah. It's what you buried. And with that, he walked out, the cafe door closing softly behind him, leaving her shaking and alone, the envelope still open like a wound that would never heal. Outside, Noah Bennett's voice came through Ethan's earpiece. She's broken. You got your confession on tape. Ethan paused at the pier's edge, eyes on the horizon. Then begin level 6. Rain started before noon, soft at first, then heavy enough to blur the city skyline into streaks of silver. Ethan stood by the window of his office, listening to the hiss against the glass. On the desk beside him lay the small recorder that held Savannah's broken voice from the cafe. Every sob, every plea, evidence not of guilt but of consequence. Grace entered quietly, umbrella dripping. You sent me the file, she said. What do you plan to do with it? He didn't turn. You know what level 6 is? She set the umbrella aside. A public broadcast of a private confession? Ethan finally looked at her. It's not about the confession. It's about the silence that follows it. She'll beg for sympathy, but the world will only hear the truth. Grace hesitated. Ethan, there's nothing left of her. Do you really want to be the man who burns ashes? He slipped the recorder into an envelope. Justice doesn't end when pity begins. By evening, the city's biggest talk show aired an anonymous audio leak. I thought you'd hate me forever. I thought you'd destroy me. The host replayed the voice again and again while the panel dissected every word. Hashtags exploded across social media. Number Savannah confession, number Rolls-Royce revenge, number Ethan Miles speaks in silence. Across town, Savannah huddled in a cheap motel, phone buzzing nonstop. The once sparkling woman now sat in darkness, her designer coat wrapped around her like a shield. She scrolled through the headlines until the tears blurred her vision. Her confession has gone viral. Savannah Miles admits affair and betrayal. Ethan Miles, the man who outsmarted betrayal. Marissa burst into the room, soaked from rain. Savannah, they're everywhere. That recording, it's your voice. Savannah's hands shook. He recorded me. Marissa nodded slowly. And he didn't have to say a word. He let the world do it for him. Savannah sank back against the headboard, a sound escaping her that wasn't quite a sob, more like something breaking too quietly to be heard. I can't breathe, Marissa. I can't even breathe anymore, Marissa whispered. Maybe this is what he wanted to make you feel what he felt when you betrayed him. Savannah stared at her reflection in the dark window. No, he felt pain. I feel nothing. Maybe that's worse. At that moment, Ethan watched the same broadcast from his penthouse. Grace stood beside him, uneasy. You won, Ethan. She's finished. Everyone knows. He didn't answer. He just muted the screen. Savannah's voice lingered in the silence. Don't let hate be what's left of us. Grace studied his face. You're shaking. He flexed his hand slowly. It's not rage. It's memory. She touched his arm gently. You can stop now. You don't have to keep climbing these levels. He turned away. Yes, I do. Because every level is a lesson. And she hasn't learned hers yet. Later that night, a courier delivered a sealed letter to Savannah's motel. Her name written in Ethan's neat handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, a single sentence. If you want the truth that will set you free, come to the courthouse tomorrow at noon. She stared at the note, whispering, What truth? Outside, thunder rolled through the city, shaking the thin motel walls. Savannah wiped her tears and whispered, If there's even a chance he still has a heart, I'll go. Meanwhile, Ethan stood alone on his balcony, watching the storm roll across Lagos. The city lights flickered like the ghosts of everything he'd lost. Level 6 complete, he murmured. Then softer, almost to himself. But why does victory still feel like grief? Noon came, wrapped in heat and dread. The courthouse plaza buzzed again, though this time no cameras waited, only the echo of rain evaporating from the marble steps. Savannah stood near the doors, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes, the same emerald dress hanging off her like a ghost of better days. She clutched the letter in her hand, its words burned into her mind. If you want the truth that will set you free, come to the courthouse tomorrow at noon. When Ethan arrived, he didn't bring reporters or lawyers, just Grace, a briefcase, and that quiet presence that somehow filled the entire courtyard. He stopped a few feet from her. Savannah spoke first, voice trembling. You said there was truth. I came for that. Not to beg. He studied her for a long second. You always came for what you thought you deserved. Maybe for once, you'll get it. He nodded to Grace, who opened the briefcase and handed Savannah a folder. Inside were faded photographs, some old, some newly printed. A man she barely remembered stared back at her. Harold Pierce, Logan's father. Another photo showed Harold shaking hands with a man who looked eerily like Ethan, his father. Savannah blinked. What is this? Ethan's voice was calm, too calm. Your lover's father destroyed mine, falsified documents, sent him to prison. He died there. When you chose Logan, you didn't just cheat on me, you sided with the bloodline that ruined everything my family ever was. Her knees weakened. I didn't know. No, he said quietly. You never asked. Savannah's throat tightened. Ethan, I swear I didn't. He cut her off, his words low but sharp enough to draw blood. You inherited the same blindness your mother carried. She destroyed 3 men looking for one who would make her feel rich. You became her shadow. You called me poor because money was the only thing that made love real to you. Tears filled her eyes. You think I wanted to be like her? Ethan stepped closer. You became her. The moment you sold me for a promise. Grace watched silently, the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. Ethan's voice softened, almost human again. The truth you came for, Savannah, is that your betrayal didn't start with you. It started with the people who raised you to confuse comfort with worth. But you had a choice. You could have broken that chain, she whispered. And you? Are you breaking yours? He blinked. The question hit harder than anything else she'd said. Grace shifted uneasily. Ethan. But Savannah wasn't finished. You think revenge will heal your father's name? That burning me down will resurrect him? She took a step closer, shaking, crying, angry. You're not your father's justice. You're his ghost. Ethan's jaw tightened. Maybe. He turned away, motioning to Grace. Let's go. But Savannah called after him, voice cracking. If this is all about your father, then finish it. Destroy me completely. Don't keep dragging me through the ashes. He stopped. The plaza went still. Then he turned back and said quietly, No, Savannah. I want you to live, because living means remembering. He walked past her, leaving the briefcase behind. Inside it, a single document waited a legal transfer of ownership for the last small charity Savannah had founded in her father's name. It was now signed over to Miles Global Health Foundation. She stared at the paper until her tears blurred the ink. She had nothing left, no name, no money, not even her father's dream. Only the truth Ethan promised her. As he drove away with Grace, she finally understood. He hadn't just taken her world, he'd taken her reflection, forcing her to see herself as he once saw himself, broken, betrayed, and painfully awake. Grace looked at him in the car. Was that level 7? Ethan nodded once. No public humiliation this time. Just truth. Truth. Lasts longer. She turned toward the window. What's next? He answered softly. Level 8. Redemption denied. A week later, the city seemed to have forgotten Savannah Miles. The tabloids had moved on. The screen stopped flashing her face, and the world that once whispered her name now spoke of others. But silence, she discovered, was worse than shame. She was living in a one-room apartment on the city's edge, the kind where the walls smelled of rust and regret. Most nights, she couldn't sleep. Every shadow looked like Ethan. Every knock at the door sounded like judgment. But she kept moving, kept hoping that somehow she could rebuild. That hope Ethan had been waiting for it. Because level 8 wasn't about taking something from Savannah. It was about giving her something that wasn't real. Early one morning, Marissa rushed into the apartment holding a folded newspaper. Sav, look, she said breathlessly. There's an article about a new foundation helping victims of financial abuse. The Phoenix Trust. They're hiring women with business backgrounds. I think you should apply. Savannah squinted at the article, her heart skipping. The foundation's logo, a silver phoenix, felt oddly symbolic. Rebirth. Hope. She clung to it. You think they'd take me? Marissa smiled weakly. You've got nothing left to lose. The next day, Savannah arrived at the foundation's downtown office, a gleaming space full of glass, flowers, and sunlight. The receptionist greeted her warmly. Mrs. Miles, we've been expecting you. Savannah blinked. Expecting me? Mister, Reed will see you now. Inside the boardroom, a man in his 40s rose to greet her. Confident, gentle, the kind of man whose eyes carried calm instead of fire. Savannah Miles, he said, smiling. You've had a difficult year. I've followed your story. The Phoenix Trust believes in second chances. Her throat tightened. You know who I am? Yes, he said softly. And still, I believe everyone deserves redemption. It was the first kind word she'd heard in months. Tears stung her eyes. I don't even know what to say. Say yes, he replied. Let us help you rebuild. And so she did. For weeks, she worked quietly managing accounts, drafting proposals, finding purpose again. People smiled when she entered the office. Someone even brought her flowers once. For the first time since her fall, she felt human. Until the night of the charity gala, the ballroom shimmered with gold light, cameras flashing as the Phoenix Trust celebrated its impact. Savannah wore a simple dress, a far cry from her old diamonds, but it felt honest. When the host announced the founder's arrival, she turned to applaud and froze. Ethan Miles stepped onto the stage. The air left her lungs. He smiled politely at the audience. Good evening. The Phoenix Trust was created to help rebuild lives broken by greed, deceit, and betrayal. He paused. letting his words echo. Because redemption should never come without reflection. Her knees nearly gave out. The man she thought had vanished, the one she thought she could escape, had built her hope from the ground up just to own it. Ethan's eyes met hers across the crowd, calm, unforgiving. After the event, she found him alone in the hallway. "Why?" she whispered. He looked at her with that same terrifying gentleness. "You thought I'd forgotten you. I needed you to believe that. Hope was the only thing left you hadn't lost." Her voice cracked. "You made me believe in goodness again." He nodded. "Exactly." Savannah's breath shook. "You hate me that much?" He stepped closer. "No, I loved you that much. Enough to understand that forgiveness would have been mercy, and mercy would have made me like you." She slapped him hard, trembling, desperate. "You're worse than me." He didn't move. "Maybe, but unlike you, I know it." Tears streamed down her face. "You've taken everything. What more do you want?" He said quietly. "For you to live knowing that redemption exists, and that I chose not to give it to you." She staggered back, shaking, whispering, "You're not human anymore." Ethan smiled faintly. "Neither were you when you sold love for luxury." As she fled the building, the gala continued behind her, music, applause, laughter, all paid for by the man who'd built a world just to remind her she no longer belonged in it. Grace found Ethan by the balcony afterward, staring at the city lights. "That was level 8? He nodded slowly. "Redemption denied," she asked quietly. "And how many more levels until you forgive yourself?" He didn't answer. The city glowed beneath him like a lie he no longer believed in. Before dawn, Ethan's penthouse was filled only with the hum of the city below and the distant roll of thunder. He hadn't slept. The mirror across from his bed showed a man who no longer looked like the one Savannah married, or even the one who first walked into court. The reflection staring back looked older, colder, like vengeance had carved itself into his skin. Grace found him there, still wearing last night's suit, a half-empty glass of whiskey beside him. "You didn't go home," she said quietly. He didn't look up. "This is home now." Silence and glass. She sighed and set a file on the counter. Pierce Holdings collapsed completely. Their assets are liquidated. Logan's father fled the country. Savannah's charity's gone. Her accounts are frozen. Her name's dirt. You've done it. Every level, every wound paid back. He gave a slow nod. "Then why does it still feel unfinished?" "Because there's nothing left to break," Grace replied. "You think revenge has an endpoint, but it doesn't. It just becomes part of you." Ethan turned away, restless. "Do you know what the worst part is? There are nights I still dream of her, the way she laughed when I fixed that old car, the way she said my name before all this. And then I wake up and remember what she did." Grace's voice was steady, though her heart cracked a little for him. "And what you're doing to yourself." He ignored her. "We still have levels 9 to 15. I need to finish what I started." Grace moved closer, her tone low. "You're not avenging your father anymore. You're avenging the man you could have been if she hadn't broken you." Ethan finally looked at her, eyes sharp. "Then let me bury him properly." Across town, Savannah sat alone in a hospital waiting room. Marissa had brought her there after she fainted outside her building. The doctor's report lay open on her lap: ulcers, stress-induced insomnia, and a warning about a possible nervous breakdown. The nurse had asked if she had any emergency contacts. Savannah had stared at the form for a long time before leaving it blank. When Marissa returned with tea, Savannah asked softly, "Do you think he ever loved me?" Marissa hesitated. "He did. That's why this hurts him more than it hurts you." Savannah's eyes went glassy. "Then why won't he stop?" Marissa whispered. "Because you became his mirror, and he can't stand what he sees." That evening, Grace visited Savannah secretly. She found her in that same hospital corridor, small and fragile. "He doesn't know I'm here," Grace said. "But you need to hear this. He's gone too far. You have to disappear, leave Lagos, start somewhere, no one knows your name." Savannah looked at her, lost. "Do you think he'll follow me?" Grace's silence was answer enough. Meanwhile, Ethan stood in his office, staring out at the city lights again. He spoke to Noah on the phone. "Track her. She's going to run." Noah hesitated. "Sir, maybe you should let her." Ethan's voice turned cold. "Not until I decide she's free." That night, thunder broke open the sky. Savannah packed her last suitcase and left the apartment, her cab rolling through the rain toward the airport. In the reflection of the car window, for just a second, she thought she saw him standing on the street corner watching, silent. But when she blinked, he was gone. Back in his penthouse, Grace confronted him again. "You're not her victim anymore, Ethan. You're her punishment, and that's not justice." He poured another drink, voice low. "Justice ends when she understands everything she took. Punishment ends when she knows she's forgiven, and she doesn't want it." Grace whispered. "And you? Do you even remember who you were before her?" He paused, eyes on the rain outside. "I remember being kind. That's why she chose me. And that's why she betrayed you," Grace said softly. "You're killing the last kind part of yourself, one revenge at a time." For a long moment, Ethan didn't speak. Then, barely audible, "Maybe that's the point." Outside, lightning flashed against the skyline, and for the first time, Ethan's reflection in the window looked like a stranger one even he couldn't recognize. Night clung to the airport like fog. Savannah kept her head low beneath a plain gray hoodie, clutching a worn passport and a single carry-on. She had traded designer luggage for silence, her perfume for sweat. The departure board blinked in front of her. "Flight 742 to Cape Town on time." Marissa whispered beside her, "This is your chance. Don't look back." Savannah's voice was a rasp. "He'll find me. He always does." "Not if you keep going," Marissa said. "The world is bigger than him." But Savannah knew Ethan didn't live in the world anymore. He lived inside consequences. When the boarding line opened, she stepped forward and froze. A tall man in a dark coat stood by the gate, his profile unmistakable even in the dim light. She blinked hard. It couldn't be him. Ethan wouldn't come here himself. The man turned. It was Noah Bennett. He handed her an envelope. "Mr. Miles asked me to give you this. He said it's the last thing you'll ever need from him." Savannah's hands shook as she tore it open. Inside was a single airline ticket, same flight, first class, seat 1 Ampere. And beneath it, a letter in Ethan's handwriting. "If you really believe you deserve peace, take this seat. If you run, you'll always wonder. If you face me, you might finally understand." Her knees nearly gave out. "He's on that plane?" Noah didn't answer. She boarded, heart pounding. The cabin smelled of cologne and coffee. Too bright, too quiet. She took her seat, and before takeoff, Ethan walked in. The passengers looked up, murmuring recognition. He nodded politely, sat across the aisle, and fastened his belt as though this were business as usual. When the seatbelt sign dimmed, she whispered, "You planned this." He didn't look at her. "You came. That's all that matters." "Why?" she demanded. "Haven't you done enough?" He turned his head slowly. "You think I'm here to punish you again? I'm not. I'm here to end it." Her voice trembled. "End what?" "Level 9, he said. The plane began to climb, lights from Lagos shrinking below. For a long time they sat in silence, engines humming like a heartbeat neither of them wanted to admit they still shared. Then Ethan leaned forward. "Do you remember our first trip? The storm, the delay, how you fell asleep on my shoulder?" Savannah's throat tightened. "Stop pretending there was ever love left." He studied her face. "There was. You killed it. But ghosts need funerals." From his briefcase, he pulled a small box and slid it across to her. Inside lay their wedding rings, melted together into a single twisted band. "This was all that remained after the fire at the old house. I kept it. Now it's yours." Tears blurred her vision. "Why show me this now?" "So you understand," Ethan said softly. "We're both buried in the same grave. You, for what you did. Me, for what I became." She whispered. "Then stop digging." He exhaled slowly, almost weary. "I can't. I don't know who I am without the hate anymore." The plane jolted through turbulence. Passengers gasped. Savannah gripped the armrest. Ethan didn't flinch. When the cabin steadied, he spoke again, quieter. "When we land, you'll have a new identity. Accounts, documents, enough money to live quietly. No one will ever bother you again." Her eyes widened. "You're letting me go?" He nodded. "That's level 9. Freedom bought with guilt." Her lip trembled. "Why now?" Ethan stared out the window. "Because I'm tired. Because my father's ghost is quiet now. Because revenge isn't as loud as regret." She reached across the aisle, touching his hand for the first time in years. "You could still forgive yourself." He looked at her fingers resting on his. Forgiveness isn't mine to give. The plane dipped toward the clouds, the city lights gone. Savannah closed her eyes, whispering a prayer that neither of them believed in. When they landed, Ethan waited at the exit, a single nod of farewell. This is where our story ends. Savannah's tears fell freely. No, this is where you finally start to feel what I felt alone. He almost smiled, but his voice was soft. Maybe that's the point. As she disappeared into the crowd, Grace's text flashed on his phone. Logan Pierce found. He's coming back. Ethan's expression hardened. Then we moved to level 10. Rain fell again, a cold, whispering drizzle that made the city look washed of color. Ethan stood outside the same courthouse where it had all begun. Reporters had long since vanished. The marble steps were empty except for one figure waiting under an umbrella. Logan Pierce. He had returned thinner, angrier, eyes hollow from months of investigation and exile. You won, he said as Ethan approached. You took my company, my reputation, my father's freedom. Congratulations. Ethan's reply was soft. Your father destroyed mine. You just carried the torch. Logan smiled bitterly. And you think you're different? Look at you, Miles. You've become exactly what you hate. Ethan looked at him for a long time, the rain tracing slow lines down his face. Maybe, but at least I remember why. They walked into the courthouse together, just as lawyers and clerks were arriving. Grace was already inside, waiting with the last set of files. She greeted Ethan quietly. Everything's ready. This hearing will finalize the asset redistribution and end the Pierce inquiry. After today, it's over. Logan laughed. Over? You think paperwork can wash blood off hands? Grace's jaw tightened. It can seal graves. Ethan turned toward Logan. You're not here because you care about the verdict. You came to see what's left of me. Logan's smirk flickered. You already know what's left of you. The question is, what will you be when the fight's gone? Before Ethan could answer, the bailiff opened the doors. Inside, the judge's voice filled the chamber, cold and formal, finalizing the transfer of every remaining Pierce-holding asset to Miles Enterprise Group. The sound of the gavel was like thunder. Outside, Grace followed Ethan into the corridor. It's done, she said. There's nothing more to win. He didn't respond. His eyes were distant, locked on the rain-streaked windows. Logan emerged behind them, voice low. You can destroy a man's world, Ethan, but not his memory. You think Savannah will ever forget what you've done? Ethan turned slowly. She'll forget me the moment she learns to forgive herself. Logan laughed once, bitter and raw. And if she can't? Ethan's answer was quiet. Then we're all ghosts. Grace stepped between them. Enough. Walk away, both of you. Ethan met her eyes. This is level 10, Grace. The final one. Not destruction. Acceptance. He walked past them, out into the rain. The Rolls-Royce waited at the curb, its black paint gleaming like a mirror. Before he got in, he looked up at the courthouse windows at the faint reflection of himself standing beside Logan. Both men shaped by betrayal, both hollowed by revenge. Down the steps, a woman approached under an umbrella. Savannah. She had returned quietly, dressed simply, eyes tired but steady. For a moment, the world went silent. She stopped in front of him. You didn't think I'd come back, she said. Ethan's voice was even. You shouldn't have. I needed to, she said, because I had to see for myself if the man I loved ever really died. He studied her face. He did. You buried him. Savannah stepped closer, rain dripping from her lashes. Then let me bury the rest. Stop before you lose what's left of your soul. Ethan's hand tightened on the umbrella handle. You think I still have one? I wouldn't be here if I didn't. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan lowered the umbrella and let the rain hit him full on the face. You're free, Savannah. So am I, she whispered. No, Ethan. Freedom isn't what you have when everyone else is broken. It's what you feel when you stop breaking them. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, something in his eyes shifted. Not forgiveness, but exhaustion. The kind that comes after carrying ghosts too long. Behind them, Logan's voice cut through the rain. This isn't over, Miles. Ethan turned just once. It is, because I finally understand the one thing my father never did. Revenge. Doesn't fix the past, it only teaches you how to live with its ruins. He climbed into the car, Grace beside him. The Rolls-Royce pulled away from the courthouse for the last time, the city fading in the mirror. Savannah watched until the taillights disappeared. Then she whispered, "Goodbye." Inside the car, Grace looked at him. "So, level 10 complete?" Ethan's voice was soft. "No, level 11 begins now." She frowned. "What's level 11? He looked out the window at the storm. "Learning how to be kind again." The rain blurred everything, the city, the skyline, the ghosts. Somewhere behind them, Savannah turned and walked away in the opposite direction, each step lighter than the last. Ethan closed his eyes and let the rhythm of the road steady his breathing. For the first time in years, he didn't feel anger, just silence. And silence, finally, felt like peace.